Hey everybody, welcome back to Monkey Shine Lab. Today I'm going to do something that I haven't done for a very long time. And no, that doesn't include shaving or bathing. No movie review for you. I haven't had time to watch movies in quite a while because my wife and I, when we get together in front of the television these days, we've been watching some really stupid and episodic content. So I think the last movie that we watched together was the King Kong Godzilla New Empire film, which I will talk about at some point. But I wanted to talk about a couple of other films first. And today, specifically, what I'd like to talk to you about is Alien Romulus. This involves a little bit of a time machine trip with me, if you will, back to 1979. 1979, I was a budding teenager and was the target audience of science fiction films such as Star Wars and all of the different imitators that came out after it. But between 77 and 79, Ridley Scott produced something that really showed us a different view of the future and space travel in the film of Alien. Before that film came along, everything in science fiction was clean. It was blippy. Yes, the robots in Star Wars got a little grit on them, but even they were polished up and shiny by the end of the film. Alien showed us a different side of it. It showed us a blue-collar side, what a space trucking situation would seem like, where the people aboard were very common folk, very grinding out a living in space. Not everything was free or synthesized like in Star Trek. Not everything was glossy and clean and laser-filled like Star Wars. This was a place where they still used shotguns. This was a place where the condensation grew in parts of the ship so heavily that it began to rain inside the ship. It was a much different view of space travel cinematically. And the other thing that the film did was in its marketing. They were very secretive about what the film had in it. There was a very big question mark about anything that was going on in the film. So from the moment that Mother, the computer aboard the Nostromo, begins to wake up, everything seems very much like a world that could possibly be. Folks being used like ants to eke out a living for a gigantic space trucking conglomerate called Weyland-Yutani. All of the films that came out after Alien were much more clean. Even Aliens and Alien 3, in their own respect, were as gritty as they were still cleanups and more action films than the suspense and the horror and the quiet of space that was shown to us in the first film. It's almost like with the addition of the Marines and etc., that the whole concept of blue-collar folks being ground under the heel of Weyland-Yutani became a side note. Yes, they were an evil corporation, but you couldn't really sense your boot on their neck. All of the films in the Aliens trilogy and quadrilogy, and then the subsequent ones that were made about the engineers and etc., have all been valid films, but none of them sort of reached back and touched me like in 1979 when I was introduced to the body horror imagery that H.R. Geiger could produce, the slimy nature of the alien, the constantly raining insides of the Nostromo, the cramped spaces, the dirty padding, the bad cafeteria food at the table, powdered eggs. It was something that you had experience with. It was something that made them all much more relatable than in the following Alien films. And so that's why when Romulus came along, I had no idea, because I don't watch trailers, I don't watch previews, and I don't watch reviews of films. I watch them for myself. That's why when I put on Romulus, I was so unbelievably and pleasantly surprised at how the writer slash director slash editor, I mean, this guy wears so many hats on this film, but really gets what was so uncomfortable and so gritty and real about the life in space presented by Alien in 1979. The film opens with a pair of characters, one of which is a reclaimed artificial person, if you will. If you're unfamiliar with the alien mythology and the pantheon of characters, the synthetics have never been good guys. Those robots are always secretly controlled because they're created by Weyland-Yutani in the first place. They are always serving the corporation before they serve the human beings around them. They're always the bad guys. In this film, they have a young man playing the synthetic who is instantly a much more empathic character. The synthetic nature of the character is not discarded, but you don't feel any threat from this particular synthetic because it was sort of pulled back from the junk heap by this main character's father, who reprogrammed it to take care of her and keep her interests absolutely as job one, right? So it's this girl working in this mining condition, in these horrible conditions, and she runs into her own sort of catch-22 with the company. By that I mean that every time she begins to reach her quota for mining and working for the company, they keep upping it by a couple hundred hours and a couple 100 pounds of whatever she's been mining, whatever it is. She hasn't quite made the quota yet. So they keep dangling this carrot of being able to get off world whilst keeping her working. And meanwhile, as you're watching the film, you hear a lot of announcements concerning people's health. If they're having respiratory problems, sleeping problems, or other health issues, that they should contact their coordinators with Weyland-Yutani. The life that they're presenting in this film is very much the same as Alien in 79. It's gritty, it's real, it's full of trucks, it's full of filthy characters who you would see in any mining town on any frontier planet in the galaxy. Just scum trying to make their way, trying to make a paycheck, So she hooks up with her friends who are also similarly catch-22ing themselves into the ground, and they all decide that they are going to make one big score by stealing from Weyland-Yutani. There is a craft that has come back into orbit, and before it is scrapped, they are going to get on board and steal whatever's on there of value, specifically, hopefully, to get some containers that they can get into for the long ass journey to a better planet and a better life. I'm sure everybody can see this coming. It's not the most fascinating and intricate plot that there ever was. But what they do differently than every other Alien film is actually get you to feel that visceral fear of the characters. They have no weapons. They have no way of protecting themselves, and they have no knowledge of what they're up against. It's exactly like the first film in that sense. And they keep running with it and keep running with it. At no point in this film did I become disillusioned with any of the characters or pissed about the running time. I watched this film happily 3 times in a row, and I would and will watch it again, because I think that with the exception of the first film, this may be my absolute most favorite Alien property of them all. I kind of felt the dread that I did in 1979 in a poorly lit movie theater in Downers Grove, Illinois, I think it was, at the Cineplex there. And I remember the line wrapping around the building. And I remember walking down the aisle to get to my seat and feeling like something might reach out of the aisles and grab my ankles, kind of like a ghost, a haunted house kind of thing. I remember being so apprehensive about the film, but also being so thrilled. I remember that chest burster scene as one of the most upsetting experiences I had seen, only to be topped, I think, by the Dawn of the Dead, George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, which came out in movie theaters and made people throw up in the aisles and things. But Alien was such a different film, and I feel like this, Alien Romulus, in so many ways is an incredibly different film than all of the rest, that it deserves to be seen. And I gotta tell you, I didn't expect any of this experience. I kind of expected that I was gonna end up writing a hit piece on it. But I'm shocked, pleasantly surprised by everything in this film. The writing, the directing, the lighting, the special effects, the creature design, and all of the body horror that came with the original Alien film is back here. It makes a brand new impact. It hits a brand new nerve. And it also sparks so much life into this Weyland-Yutani universe that I'm ready. I'm actually super pumped to see what this director does next and see where this franchise goes next. Because this is a hell of a reboot, a great restart. And if you're a young person who didn't get to experience Alien in 1979 like I did, I would imagine that this in the theater would have been a little bit of the same experience. The lighting on the outer space models and things, the eerie nature with which things appear and disappear into the darkness of space will leave you uncomfortable, as will lots of things in this movie, from the language on down to some of the really, really, really violent things that happen. So please don't let your kids watch this. Don't even let your teenager watch it, because they'll grow up like me. Let's see, 1979, 30, 40 years later. Do you want this? Do you want this? I didn't think so. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that movie. And like I said, I don't give away spoilers. And so hopefully I haven't done that here for you. Hopefully there's a lot for you to experience with this film still. My hope is that you will. Boy. Feel a little, Take it easy, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.